last several decades, you guys have probably noticed that a lot of people are really searching for their origins. Like there's a lot of services now where you can find out, whether you were have roots in Africa, have roots in Europe or in Asia. So there seems to be this trend of trying to find out more about who you are as a person. And now that has led to this movement. Well, I don't want to say movement. Well, I guess it does qualify for movement. A movement of IVF conceived kids or donor conceived kids who are seeking their identity just like everyone else. And so they're asking for the information of their sperm donors. And so we're going to talk about that this evening, but let's first start with the overall trend of people wanting to find out more about themselves. What do you guys think about that? Is this new? Is this always been a thing and we're just have more services to help us? Like, what do you think about why are people wanting to find out their roots so much?
I'll speak to that because I actually just attempted to do it because for me, it's like being like a Black American or African American. I think it was like a quote. It's like to be African American is to be African with to be like African with no memory and American with no privilege. So it's like a double-edged sword. So I know I have African roots, right? So I wanted to know how much of those roots I had, where I had those roots, because a part of me always felt like, okay, I know that I'm American born, I understand that, but everybody around me was like something else, like Caribbean or Laotian or Mexican, like everybody can pinpoint, where they were from another country. And all thing I could go is past like, yo, I'm from the continent. And then I'm from Nigeria. Then I'm like, Nigeria big as hell. I don't know what part of Nigeria I'm from. So you know what I mean? So then like a lot of that, I wanted to feel more connected to the continent. I wanted to be more than just a Black American, or at least know the other side of who I was from the continent. And I just wanted to know a little bit about my history. I couldn't get past like my great grandmother. I wanted to know if we had a story outside of slavery.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Do you think that's what's driving, particularly the Black culture? Is
I think we're looking for connection. I just think that to be Black in America is just like, we cultivated a lot of culture here that's implemented around the world. But what is it really, really like? What are our traditions as, African Americans or Black Americans, where we really, where is some of that culture? We wear hats. In Africa, they wore hat, right? So, the covering of the crown, what does it really mean? How much of our history and legacy transcended across the diaspora? And I would just like to know for me, I wanted to know what that history was or what that connection was.
That's an interesting point. And I can definitely get that. I can definitely see that. Looking for the origin, because a lot of things that are African American culture are so heavily based in African culture, but there's such a gap in our knowledge, even our foods. Like there's this amazing documentary that talked about sort of the evolution of the foods that we eat and our culinary techniques and style.
That was a book as well.
Yes, and just how amazing the connection is to African cultures. And it also talked about sort of how things diverted in the Caribbean culture and why there are such differences between the two. But again, a lot of connecting origin. But this trend seems to have transcended to other ethnic groups as well. So there seems to be an overarching sort of desire for people to find, I don't know if people are looking for purpose. Purpose almost came out of my mouth. But I'm wondering, why are other cultures, why do you guys think other cultures may be so vested in this? Am I part African? Am I part European? Are other cultures trying to figure out whether or not they're African too? Which they are.
Probably so.
Which they are.
I mean, I think
everybody loves to know about history and go forward back as well.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And why is this trending now? Like, why now? Because, we have always, I shouldn't say we, but to my understanding, we as a people have always been striving to understand our origin. Why is it so trendy now to do?
Everything is digital. Everything is popping up that you can see and stuff, that's social media and everything. So whatever is trending and everything, a lot of people is going to jump on it. So I think that's another reason why. And it's just bringing attention to everybody, and everybody wants to do it.
And I think it's something that we want to be proud of, because as a Black person, if I say I'm proud of America, like which part? Because you know what I mean? So if I'm like, like I know that I'm American made, I'm American born, but I don't have the same art. We live in like Black folks America and then everybody else, like two Americas. And I can't even say people of color, because amongst people of color, we still Black folks. So I say Black folks and then everybody else. However, we want something to be proud of. And we're proud to be Americans. I get that. But it's also like, what part of America am I proud of? If I say I'm American and I'm like American and proud, am I like, what does that actually mean? So I think a lot of us are searching for, like you said, Tasca, we're searching for meaning. We are searching for purpose. We are just we're just searching because so many times we've been treated as if we were second-class citizens and we weren't American, or we're too Black or not American enough. And if we just do these types of things, we could be a part of all these things. But then when we achieve those things, the goal line is moved or the criteria is moved. So it's like there's always something preventing us from being fully Black or fully American or fully African. We're like a half a Native American, African slash African hyphenated American. So it's already feeling like there's a divide, even when you describe who we are as a people. And we're a hyphenated people, is what it feels like. And so people are just grasping at some sort of connection, some sort of control, some sort of attachment or secure attachment to, our lineage, our ancestry, our legacy, because a lot of it has been ripped away from us. And now with this technology, it's so much information at hand. People just want to have a better understanding of
who they are. Yeah.
But if they want to see more than us being Americans, like you said, us being proud of being Americans, but they probably want to see outside of America. What part are we outside of America? Like you said, Africa and everything. So a lot of people want to see that stuff, because even Black, not just Black Americans, but Black Caribbean folks and stuff. By meeting my husband, they always consider him African American, but he's not. He's Black, but his origins like Caribbean. So it's more to that and everything, and other things that has been mixed in. So.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting point. I definitely think accessibility plays a role. The fact that we have all these services that are now freely accessible, where people can actually just swab their mouths and send it and get, this layout of the land, their historical land. For those of us who have been trying to do, if you ever tried to do a family tree, I tried to do it years ago in my family, and there's a lot of gaps, a lot of gaps. So I would love to have that information. And then also, I think the newer generations, I think they're so purpose driven, like they're not choosing things in life as, traditionally have been chosen in terms of careers and things like that. They're driven more by purpose. And I can see, if you're seeking purpose, trying to figure out your foundation first. And I can also imagine those who are Caucasians can definitely help us in understanding this. But I do also think that for some Caucasians, there may be a desire to disconnect. As much as we want to connect to, like, there may be Caucasians who want to disconnect from the racial history of America and find some deeper purpose in their history and in other origins. Like perhaps they're African, everybody's African, but maybe wanting to connect to, the fact that they have roots in Nigeria, may have roots in Zambia, you know, giving this greater purpose to kind of erase sort of the racial history that is actually a part of their heritage. I could see the desire to want to disconnect from that. So I do think that there is an overall trend. I do think Karen is right that it is trending and everybody's hopping on the trend. Everybody wants to unveil, to remove the veil of their past. And so I find it really interesting that the children, the donor conceived children, are now desiring that, which I think it's a very interesting, very controversial area, because, you know, like, what do you guys see as some of the challenges with a donor conceived child wanting to find out the information about their father, their sperm well, should I use the word father? Should I still use the word sperm donor and not father? Perhaps I'm erring
biological
father.
There's
biologically, I mean, it's
the father.
Yeah, nowadays, like, everything is more than just like everything is so fluid nowadays. So technically, scientifically, I mean, it would be biology, but I think it's just anybody can be a dad, but it takes a lot to be a father, or the vice versa. So I'm not really sure. I was, thinking about the topic today. Even Karen and I were having a conversation beforehand. It's very conflicting. Like, I understand wanting to know, like, for me, like, I didn't have a recollection of my dad until I was 16 years old. So there's a part of me that was always like missing. And then an article was also saying, like, that's one of the scenarios. Why is it okay to want your dad, if you never met him, in that scenario, but why is it not okay for someone who was like donor conceived to want their dad? It's the same thing. It's a missing father. But why are the previous scenarios more culturally appropriate or accepted, opposed to those that are donor conceived? So I was like, that was very interesting in that part as well. But I think it's important to know, because I mean, I don't know what you find out. Are there medical concerns? Are there any mental health concerns? Lord, like, if I'm being 100% honest, do I got some brothers out there? Because I don't want to look up and I'm dating a damn brother. You know what I mean? So I want to know how many.
That's a legitimate question. Like,
you know what I mean? So
should this be a part of the dating questions? Like, were you conceived by sperm donor? Like, do you know that?
Is these your biological parents? Yes,
exactly.
But my question to you: what made you, or even when you were 16, to know about your biological father? Like, was it brought to your attention? Did you ask? What was that conversation like?
I mean, I knew he existed, but I was at a point where I was 16 and I was going up to my family's home in Cleveland, and I didn't have a recollection of them until I was 14. And then 2 years later, he came about and we met. I mean, he met me before, but I was like 2. I don't know. I mean, I didn't have any idea who he was. But the more and more, because the men who raised me were dying. Like my grandfather, my stepdad, my track coach who raised me as well, he was getting older. So I was having all these connections with men who were like extended fathers, but I actually had a biological father. And when my grandfather died and my stepdad died, I'm like, I legit have a dad. And I would like to have a connect, like, he's legit
connection
physically
with him
here.
Yeah,
and I would like to have a connection with him.
In terms of like this specific population of people, it's a unique circumstances, right? The fact that there is an understanding when the woman goes in to have infertility services, there is an understanding that he's released from all fatherly duties.
This is the understanding between the mother and the sperm donor, correct? Not the child. The child didn't ask to be conceived that way.
Right, but the child is subsequent to the mother's decision, right? And so is it fair for the father to now have to disclose their information, where the whole point of sperm donors being sperm donors is so that they're, for the most part, anonymous, with the exception of a few exceptions, that have been highlighted in the news. But for the most part, it's because they want to help someone have a child, but they don't want to be responsible. So that's the understanding and sort of the cultural understanding as to why we have sperm donors. Like, I can see this being a problem if things change. Will we have sperm donors?
My question and probably statement is for those that is sperm donors, they want to be anonymous, correct, give and take. However, I think, this is my opinion, I think the mothers that does do that, they should have know at a certain time, whether the age or the child, have a serious conversation like, listen, I did A, B, and C, and D. This person don't want to be found and all that, but if you choose to want to find out like information due to, like you said, health, mental health, you know, whatever it might be, it's cool. Or if you want to know if you have other siblings because you don't want to date your brother or sister, and it's cool, but just know that you might get some pushback and you might not have a relationship with this person if they're living or not. Like, they need to have a sit down conversation, and that's on the mother at this point.
Right. And to your point, we do screen for certain medical conditions. So the moms are aware if there is any significant family history on the sperm donor side or any chronic diseases. There are a lot of people who won't qualify to be a sperm donor because of certain medical conditions and things like that. So there is some level of disclosure for women who are seeking sperm donors to know, you know, whether or not there are certain medical conditions that the donor has. So there is some medical information that is shared. The question now is, because infertility services are here to stay and they're advancing significantly. So we're likely going to have a much larger generation of kids that are conceived foreseeably by sperm donors. So this legitimately will become a much greater discussion as that population grows. And I want to share with you guys the numbers. Currently, there are about 30,000 to 60,000 children conceived by sperm donors every single year.
30,000 in the United States.
In the US. Yeah. That's a lot of children per year. That's a lot of children. So this is definitely a growing population. And my concern is, from the fertility standpoint, is if you start to now require disclosure, will we have sperm donors? That number may start to decrease significantly if sperm donors aware of the fact. And the same thing with egg donors. You know, we're talking about sperm donors here, but there are also egg donors as well. And if the conversation is starting with sperm donors, I can guess that the conversation is going to start to expand to egg donors as well. These people are donating. You know, it's like donating an organ, and then the organ recipient want to find out more about you and want to have a relationship with you. I understand why the kids want to have further information, that sense of belonging.
Yeah.
But in this circumstance, who writes trumps whom?
Yeah, that's
the parents that brought them in this world. The person that decided to get the egg or the sperm. That's who. That's for my opinion.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying, but why, Karen? Why should the parents' right trump the kids' desire to find out their origin? Well,
not necessarily the right, but I'm just saying, like, they need to explain to them, like.
Oh, meaning that it's their responsibility to explain the circumstances.
That's
to their
responsibility, yes.
But let's say you have the scenario of a child that's like, okay, that's cool, mom, but I still want to find out about my dad, or I still want to find out about the egg donor.
So why can't they do it like, you know how they do adoptions? You can have a closed adoption or open adoption. So you can have like a closed sperm donation versus like maybe an open sperm donation, so like it can say, you know, parents or kids can have an idea of who this person might be because they're open to, you know, like meeting them or understanding like who they might be. They do the same thing in adoption just for the foreseeable future if that child wants to know who that parent is, or if that parent wants to know who the child is. You know, so they have open adoptions.
But the circumstances are different, right?
I know, but the thing is, what if the mother's dead?
I didn't hear any. What?
Yeah, I was saying that the circumstances are different because when you have an adoption, the guy, whether or not, you know, he wanted to parent or not, he knew that laying down with the woman that he laid down with produced a child in which he can legitimately or should legitimately be a father, right? There's a certain level of responsibility. The mentality of men who come to be sperm donors, with a few exceptions, is really not for a relationship. They literally just want to be a sperm donor. There's really not
wanted the money for college because they was broke. So
right, exactly. Well. But whether or not the motivation is financially or the motivation is, you know, philanthropically, they ultimately just want to donate their sperm. They don't really. It's not a scenario where they lay down with someone and consented to have sex with someone and knew that the possible consequences of that would be having a child that they are responsible for. They are literally just wanting to donate their sperm.
Right. So then that would be, because I understand that. And I understand that concept. But what I was just saying, I was just making the parallel to saying you could have like open sperm donation if you wanted to, if you were open to a relationship, there's somebody finding out who you are. That's just what I meant by that parallel. And if you don't want to be known, okay, yeah, you have a closed donation. So I was just comparing it. I understand it's not the same as adoption. I'm just comparing it to just those two things. There's like an open adoption versus like, could you have an open sperm donation? That's what that point was.
I get what you're saying. I'm just saying that the likelihood in terms of people who are sperm donors or egg donors wanting to be disclosed is probably going to be very low.
But I was saying for the kids' sake, it could be an option. I mean, I'm not saying, clearly it's never been brought, you know, nobody has talked about it. It's not a law or anything like that. But
that's what this particular guy wants to do. They want to make it a law. They want to, that's where they're heading. They want to.
So I'm saying that could be an option to that.
Didn't they do that in UK?
Do what?
Did they make it successful in the UK?
You have to,
not that I'm aware of.
A campaign to be banned.
Not that I'm aware of that it's made law, no.
Okay.
They're definitely trying to make it a law because the conceived kids want to have rights. They want to have rights and access. It's hard because I get why they want to, but legitimately, the likelihood
I know
of a sperm donor wanting to be identified or an egg donor wanting to be identified is low.
Yeah, especially sperm donor. What if they, donated so much sperm, they got like 25 kids out there, and in real life, they finally got married or whatever they had, and they have 5 kids that they know. They got so many other kids that they don't know.
You're right. You're right.
That's a crazy balance right there. So, hey.
It may be overwhelming to know that you have 20-something kids. It may be an overwhelming reality. I think it's a very sticky circumstances because we do want our fertility services to thrive and to allow infertile couples or infertile individuals to have options and opportunities to parenthood. But at the same time, it has to be balanced with some level of privacy to allow people who want to continue to be donors to be donors. And the concern is, and I totally like what Chastity was saying in terms of giving people the option. My concern is just from the perspective of how realistic is that someone who wants to donate will want to be disclosed. And as Karen said, it's for an egg donor, you may have donated a few eggs. It would be very unusual for you to have donated, hundreds of eggs. But for a sperm donor, you literally could have fathered quite a number of kids. So it's.
But why? My question is, why is it so? I guess popular right now to bring up this topic? Is it a trend that's going around?
Yeah, everybody's talking about this that's now? Evolving.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's something that's evolving. And it's basically evolving for the reasons we just talked about. We have a growing population of individuals who are now a very unique population. We have a subgroup population, legitimate subpopulation, because there are about 30,000 to 60,000 per year, as we mentioned it just in the US, that is expanding. And as with any growing population, every population that's growing that has a unique quality are going to seek rights related to that unique characteristics about them. It's just a natural evolution of all subpopulations. And so, like so many other populations, well, whether it's LGBTQ plus, minority populations, there's always a desire to have the same rights as the general population. And I think that's where this is coming from. I just don't, it's really a balance between two sets of rights. And it's a really hard balance.
They were trying to do in 2016 in Victoria, Australia, they were trying to retroactively abolish anonymity for all sperm donors. A previous law had already banned it from 1998 onward. Donor-conceived people in the United Kingdom have also successfully campaigned to ban anonymous sperm donation. So, I mean, they're trying, like, it's been like, we're talking about it, but, they've been trying for a few years. And I don't know, I think it's like to your point, Dr. Moore, when you're like doubling on the edge of privacy, like you want people to donate so that other people can conceive and so that women can conceive as well. But then these are your decisions as a man and a woman. Subsequently, you have a child. And in the article is also stating that it's like the government then leaves you with no recourse. It's like, okay, you're here, and then we are hands off at this point. Because a part of the article was speaking to that, is like, you help create us, but then you don't help us, any other kind of way.
The government didn't help create them. These are private fertility programs. The government is not
But there's
involved.
laws to prevent them from being, like, the donors from being known. So like,
but to your point, it's really, really tricky. And I don't know how we're going to resolve this, because you're right. There are laws that protect the sperm donors from being disclosed and exposed. And the government will have to decide whose rights triumphs whose. And again, my concern is, and I get why the children want to know their origin. However, I just see a pushback and a decrease in sperm donors and egg donors if that is the requirement.
I totally agree. Like, I believe it's a connection that they want, correct? It's a connection. So I feel they didn't have too much a connection with the people that raised them. And they're trying to find something more than what the people that raised them say. It's something out there was much better, much more of a connection that would bring me to who I am today, or what I need to be in the future, or whatever the theory is, something going on in their head. So that's
I think you also need to be mindful and set realistic expectations, because one, you already felt rejected by a person who may not have wanted you, or may not, had a connection with you. But then also be prepared that if you actually meet that person in person, they legit may reject you in person, and that's a whole other subset of feelings that you might be dealing with abandonment issues, or insecurity, or identity issues as well. So I think if this is what you're trying to do, set realistic expectations for yourself. What if they do want a relationship? What if they're not who you think that they are? So just be really mindful of, it may not turn out the way that you want, and it actually may turn out worse than what you want, or it could turn out better than what you want. Just have really realistic expectations and a support system around you that will support you either way it goes. If you do establish a relationship, if you don't establish a relationship, but then also if it's getting to a place where it's like starting to impair you functionally, like, functional impairments, you might want to talk to somebody about grief and loss. You have to, grieve the loss of an idea that you had that this person might be, or what this person could have been in your life. But then you also have to grieve the loss of a biological parent.
Right.
So I think that's also, like, if I'm gonna get to my role, which is the mental health side, I think it's very, very important to establish that for yourself, and have a support system around you, just in case. Even if it goes good, or if it doesn't or it doesn't go the way that you expect it to be. So
right. And then the question becomes, how involved should the sperm donor have to be? Like, should it be just you get to meet me and we get to have a conversation, get the information you want, or are you trying to have a relationship? And clearly, this is going to be an ongoing conversation. Should sperm donations be treated like closed adoptions only? Where there's an understanding that this is a closed circumstance. This is definitely going to be an ongoing discussion because there's so many levels of just boundaries that have to be determined, and individual rights, figuring out whose rights is greater than whom's. It's a very difficult conversation, and I definitely empathize with those who are seeking information about their origin. And at the same time, I empathize with donors, with egg donors and sperm donors, because they want to do something philanthropic, whether it's, or financially motivated, but ultimately they're trying to help a infertile person, individual, or couple. And now they're faced with greater responsibilities, because then the question becomes, do they then have to pay child support? There are all these open areas that once you open this box, you have to answer all those questions. And if your people are facing child support issues and relationship issues and having to be responsible for 20-something kids, 30-something kids, that you're asking a lot.
But then I do believe that there should be a cap.
And if there is a cap, would some people go without options? Some infertile couples.
I mean, I don't think you should. If you are here, like there's like 20 kids that you didn't like, I just read an article that suggests that there should be a cap. And I kind of agree with that, because at some point, is there some sort of response? Like you are the reason for like 20 births. Like there's none of these people can have a connection to you.
But at the same time, you have now blessed 20-something families with a child that they otherwise would not have had. And if I
understand. Like I 100%. I'm like, it's like a double-edged. I'm conflicted. It's a double-edged sword. Like you bless 20 people, but then you out here just like I don't.
And had they not provided, and it's not that we have tons of sperm donors, right? Had they not provided, the question would be, would we have more couples or individuals who just won't have the option to have a child because we don't have enough sperm donors if we put a cap on it? So
there's always going to be an argument, like you said. So hey, an argument for either side.
A lot to decide. Yes. But, it's just an interesting world that we're living in now that the fertility industry is really booming and growing so significantly.
Yes.
You guys who are watching this episode, let us know what you think. Should they disclose or should they not be disclosed? We're gonna go around. The question for the day is, what is your favorite meal? We're gonna start with our massage therapist. Let us know where we can find you, and what is your favorite meal?
Oh, wow. Well, you can find me at What a Touch on Instagram. My favorite meal? Tacos. Like I'm a taco. I could eat tacos for the rest of my life if that's what you want me to do. And not just any tacos, like you got to have LA black tacos.
Oh, okay. Okay. That is extremely specific. All right. So don't bring her no tacos from New Mexico, from New York, from Atlanta. Hold on to your tacos. She wants LA-based tacos. Okay.
I am Miss._Chaz on Instagram. And my favorite meal is my grandmother, and it's a meal. Yes, I said meal, is my grandmother's mac and cheese.
Oh, okay.
That is the die for.
Okay, I'm about to pull all your cards for all you folks to consider mac and cheese a meal.
Yeah. Yes, I said a meal. I understand it's a side dish, but I can eat it by itself and it'll fill me up as if it was a full course meal.
Wow.
Barbara Lambert's mac and cheese, Southern style.
How many kids eat that?
Don't ask me about nutrition. We're not going to talk about that.
I didn't know. You said it was my favorite meal. I didn't say it was good for me. I said my favorite kid.
I was talking about the kids that Kara was talking about.
Oh, the children. I don't know about the children, but I know for me.
The children. Awesome. And I am Dr. T, the hand behind the handle of Healthy Bump reproductive.club. You can find us on Instagram under our handle, and you can find it right here on YouTube. Thank you guys for watching. And my favorite meal, you guys know I got West Indian in my blood, so I got to take it to my West Indian meal. My absolute favorite meal is if you give me a red snapper steamed with onions and peppers, and you put some dumplings and green bananas and sweet potato, like the West Indian sweet potato. Mwah! That is my favorite meal. Make sure you put the Scotch bonnet pepper on the side with the pepper sauce, the Caribbean pepper sauce.
That Scotch bonnet is no joke.
Yes.
I got that at the Mexican restaurant in LA, and they only give it out like they stingy with it. Ooh, baby, they stingy with it. Yeah,
and
it's so good.
Your esophagus like other peppers do. So that is by far my favorite meal. If I could have it every day, I would. So yeah, that's it for today. We thank you guys for watching. This is an amazing topic. It's a hard topic. As you can see, we usually know how to dice up stuff, but this one is hard. So let us know what you think. Drop the comment below and make sure you ask us a question of the day. We'll make sure we answer it on the next episode. See you guys there. Bye.